Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our session today on the topic of From Spreadsheets to Smart Quality, Practical Steps for Small to Medium-Sized Businesses in Modernizing their QMS. My name is Angela Anderson, Product Marketing Manager for ETQ, and I'm joined today by my esteemed colleague, Tim Robinson from our Solution Engineering team. And Tim helps customers like you every day to navigate the QMS software buying journey and guide them on how to get the most out of their technology investment to achieve their quality objectives. So today, we're going to walk through some of those considerations in relation to our new Reliance Go offering. So we'll start today's agenda with, oh, sorry, Tim, did you want to say hello to the folks out there?
I did, and I just wanted to point out that that is a terrible picture of me. Usually I look a little bit better than that, but hi everyone. I've been with or maybe I don't know. I've been with ETQ for 5 years. So I work with prospects, showing them the benefits of using our system, and I'm excited to talk about this new offering we have to meet a market need.
Great, thanks, Tim. And I think it's a great picture. You have a happy, smiling face, ready to help.
Okay. Well, I need to AI that one up a little bit.
Okay, so I'm not touching the AI thing. So we'll start today's agenda with kind of a grounding in real quality challenges of small to mid-size companies. And then from there, we're going to walk through kind of how to think about building out a right-size QMS foundation using a crawl, walk, run. Say that 5 times fast. A crawl, walk, run approach. Quality is a journey after all. We'll then get into some practical steps like how to look at modernizing your workflows and starting to reduce that manual, perhaps spreadsheet-driven effort that may be slowing you down today. And this will include kind of a live demonstration of Reliance Go, which we just mentioned. It's our new kind of turnkey QMS purpose-built for the smaller organization. And then we'll wrap up with some Q&A to address any specific questions you may have. So if you do have questions along the way, be sure to drop those into the questions chat window in that GoToWebinar interface. And we are recording this session, so once we're done today, I think within 24 hours, we send out a link to all registrants. So you'll have that in your back pocket to rewatch or share with friends. And so let's see from there. Okay, yeah, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get into it. So before we kind of get into the how, let's maybe take a step back and think about the why, because we all know quality isn't just a department or a checklist, and those of us kind of living in quality understand that quality touches every single stage of how you make and deliver your products. And if we think about it from start to finish, it kind of starts in product design, designing quality in from the beginning, or maybe the reverse of that, designing the failures out in a proactive manner. And it runs through your supply chain, making sure materials and components coming in meet your standards, so you're not kind of chasing supplier problems from the shop floor. It's in manufacturing and assembly. It's in how you get product out the door and to your customers, and ultimately in the feedback you get once it's in the field. So when those stages are all kind of digitally connected, when a problem caught in manufacturing can inform your supplier requirements, or when a customer complaint can trigger a design review, that's what we refer to as closed loop quality, and that's where the real value of a system like this lives. So for a lot of smaller, medium-sized businesses, those connections are usually happening, in a manual fashion today, if at all. So someone's pulling data from a spreadsheet, sending an email, updating a tracker, losing track of the email, and maybe that method works, but until it doesn't. And a customer complaint, a failed audit, a rework pile that wasn't in the plan, all that can quickly compound those costs of quality. But the good news is, and the reason you're here today, transitioning to a more automated system is totally doable. With the right technology, it makes those feedback loops automatic, gives you that visibility across your operation, and really helps you move from that kind of on your heels reacting mode to proactively improving. So all that to say, brings me to Tim, who's going to talk about what that value actually looks like in practice and why, quality done right is one of the strongest levers that you have, even as a smaller organization. It's a strong lever for growth and competitiveness. So over to you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. So really the idea is that we've created a robust, automated and efficient quality management system here at ETQ that delivers, measurable business value to customers. And we really measure that value across 5 main areas, in addition to simply making better products and services. And the 5 areas you're seeing across the screen, right? So these 5 core value drivers that we identified through talking to our customers and scouring the market, we often ask our prospects and clients, which one of these do you feel would be most valuable to your organization? And if you can improve in these areas, what sort of measurable impact would it have on you and your business? So starting left to right, the most common one we have is, of course, reducing cost. So doing things like having standard inspections for your products, having when your product fails those inspections, having a non-conformance process that determines the risk level of this particular issue, and if we need to move to an investigation to figure out how we fix that long term. So really lowering the cost of your poor quality, very common one, very straightforward. But then there are, of course, other things like improving efficiency. So moving to our right, when you consolidate multiple processes and systems globally, that can improve productivity and reduce costs across multiple locations. So again, making sure, some of those things Angela alluded to, losing emails, not being aware of assignments, not having your inspections data to look at how often your inspections are failing and what products are failing and why they're failing. These are the types of things that we can help, visualize, collect, standardize, and then eventually improve efficiency. And typically with that also comes increased productivity as well, right? So when you start having less failures, you do these investigations, you have your employees trained correctly, you've got the correct work instructions, then you're improving your product to begin with, and you're wasting less time on failures and things of that nature. Moving a little bit farther to the right, and typically something that's a little bit later stage, we'll start talking about the stages, I think, on the next slide, but you can also optimize your suppliers through ETQ. So providing them with supplier scorecards that we auto-generate in the system that takes into account things like on-time delivery from your suppliers. Again, failed inspections, I keep going back to that one. How many corrective actions did you have to issue them, and how long were they aging before they responded and you were able to close out? You can then provide a scorecard. You can compare across different suppliers. If you're getting the same product from multiple, which one's performing the best? You may, one thing I bring up to our prospects when you come up for contracting, that may affect that as well, if you need to change the terms based off of their performance. And then lastly, accelerate time to market. We've got tools like project control and change management. The idea is, of course, the quicker you can put out a product without coming short, without any deficiencies, the quicker you can begin selling it, the better off you are. So I will move to the next slide, which is what I was mentioning, I briefly mentioned. This is sort of what I would call a maturity model to help you sort of visualize a typical ETQ, what we call a quality journey. We're working with organizations all the time to define and navigate their path to automating their quality systems, right? We're always going through implementations of new clients. A lot of current clients are expanding what they do with us or changing it. So we've got several balls in the air, probably a better term for that, but we're constantly working with our organizations to do this type of thing. And every journey is a little bit different, depending on what vertical you may be in, how old your company is, what systems you already have in place. But But the idea is we help you start by determining, what's your main pains and challenges, and then we begin using ETQ to help alleviate some of that. So typically, if we look to the left to right, in the Ignite stage, many of our customers begin with core quality, things like making sure you have document control, making sure your employees are accessing the right revisions, that those are being reviewed and updated on say an annual basis, and making sure your employees are trained on those documents. So typically things like that, corrective actions, making sure we've got a standard process, making sure you're following through on a corrective action. Oftentimes we hear with smaller companies that CAPAs get reported, they get investigated, and then there's no follow through as far as fixing the actual issue, which is really the most important part. So our software can close that loop as well, and really you can't close a CAPA until all the preventive actions have been completed. Now I'm going off on the software, just in my nature, I guess. We can also look at that at some point. But really, so that's typically the Ignite stage. The Accelerate stage, you may begin doing things like connecting to your ERP. So when you, going back to my non-conformance example, if you've got a lot that needs to be scrapped because it did not pass the quality standards, we can send a job to your ERP to do that scrapping and work with moving that inventory. So things like that are typically a second phase. As you become comfortable with the system, you want to start accelerating your use of it, and then you can expand. Again, an example here, these things may be reversed based off of how important it is to you, but example of expanding, we see a lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, adding supply chain quality, maybe starting doing your receiving in ETQ and your supplier scorecards, as I mentioned. And then another piece I hadn't brought up is we've got health and safety components as well. So if you need to do incident reporting or behavior-based safety, you may not need to roll that out stage 1 in Ignite, but a year from now, 2 years from now, that may be something that you need to expand into. And lastly, transform. Typically that's looking at big data. We've got the ability to do dashboarding. So you can really transform your business based off of what you're collecting and the issues that you're seeing in ETQ over time. You can begin addressing those proactively instead of reactively.
Great,
so
thanks.
I will, yes, go ahead, Angela.
Were you about to smoothly hand off to me?
I was about to say, I'm gonna hand this back over to Angela. Hop right on.
I just kind of jumped in there. Hey, thanks, Tim, for kind of painting that kind of total picture of kind of what's possible, and some of the pathways and ways that ETQ could support an organization through that journey. And it may sound like man, that's a lot to tackle, and I would say that that's kind of where Reliance Go comes in, because it gives folks kind of a solution that's more on the left-hand side of what you just showed. So more on the Ignite side, allowing smaller organizations who may not have a ton of quality teams are always stretched for resource, but even more so at a smaller organization. And really the whole idea behind Reliance Go is that you shouldn't need a large IT team or a lengthy implementation project to get onto a modern QMS like Reliance. And so the solution is designed for smaller organizations to get up and running on their own. And firstly, it is kind of a turnkey approach. Pricing is simple and upfront. You're paying for basically user licenses, a platform kind of license fee, and that's it. There's no professional services fees that are baked in, and because the system comes with these built-in workflow practices right out of the box, you're not starting from a blank state. You're in referring back to what Tim just talked about. We're pre-igniting you, and so. In a moment, Tim's going to kind of cover all of those core quality processes that are included in the package. So we'll take a closer look at that. Secondly, it's really, it's truly self-service. So you have control over how and when you roll it out to your team. We give you detailed how-to guides and step-by-step instructions. So you can, set up and launch with confidence without, really needing to, as a business owner, you can do it. There's no need to lean on IT or kind of wait on anyone else. As well, there's resources for your onboarding process where your users can come in and make use of existing courses and onboarding type materials to get folks up to speed and have control over that process. And we'll show you a.
Sorry, Angie, while you're talking about that, that's something I usually highlight when I talk to prospects. We've got a tool called ETQ Academy, which is almost like a YouTube, which I live and die by YouTube, fixing things around the house. I had to fix a leak the other day, and I found a video and showed me exactly how to do it. We do the same thing. So for this self-service setup, an example I can think of, you may need to put in a new location. You opening up a new plant somewhere. The system will show you, or that ETQ Academy, you can search a topic like how to add a location as a drop down, so we can, when you're reporting, say, a CAPA in the future, you can pick that location and tag it. It'll walk you right through how to do that without having to even involve us, and you can just set it up yourself. Sorry.
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy. That and I was remiss in saying that that it's called ETQ Academy, and it's full of on-demand materials like Tim just described. So we really try to empower organizations to be independent with this and have those resources kind of there at their disposal. And we'll show as we get after the demo, we'll show you kind of a sample implementation timeline, so you can kind of see what kind of that time frame might look like. And then third, and importantly, I think, is this is a really a real enterprise grade system. It's built on our trusted core QMS platform. You're getting cloud native capabilities, strong cybersecurity, and a system that's really built to grow with you. Tim talked through kind of that maturity path, really getting you up and going from an Ignite perspective. But then, there's, as Tim mentioned, if you need to add more users, more locations, more processes, integrations with other business systems, your ERP, MES, it really makes for an affordable entry point, but there's not kind of a ceiling there on accommodating what your future growth might be. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and take a closer look at exactly what's in this Go package. So back over to you, Tim.
Yeah, and you actually brought up another good point. As far as you said entry point, and when we were talking a few minutes ago about expanding, accelerating, later on in the process, if you do need our services, they always could be added if you need help standing up a incident reporting, for instance. If you're not necessarily locked into Reliance Go, but that could be a good starting point and entry point to keep costs much lower until you need to maybe bring us in. And what we're looking at now, I guess the other piece I wanted to bring up, we are a cloud-based QMS platform, right? So we're built on Amazon AWS, which most people are familiar with that. So that's what Angela was mentioning about, making sure IT doesn't really need to get involved. We handle all of that. And what we're looking at is the self-service offering is a subset of all the apps that ETQ offers. So we've got 45 applications now. You heard me mention things like incident management. What comes with ETQ Reliance Go, at least right now, is the initial offering, are the 8 that are listed within this slide. Customer feedback, I will quickly point out, that's really customer complaints. You can take in positive feedback, but that doesn't happen that often. But really, these are the building blocks to setting up ETQ and getting the basics rolled out to your employees. And we'll demo one of these in a few minutes. The idea, though, is you can start small and scale fast, allow you to digitize, centralize all your data. In a lot of these a lot of these applications actually connect to one another as well. I will point out also below to the right of where it says ETQ Reliance Platform, it's just mentioning some of the things that come with the system. So, we were just talking about things like security. There's a tool for escalating notifications. So if that comes with Reliance Go as well. So you get notifications if a CAPA is coming due. You can delegate assignments within Reliance Go as well. If someone's going on maternity leave, I can say everything that Sarah was assigned to Sarah needs to be done by Tim for the next 2 months. So there's some other things that come with each application that are sort of just system-wide. And I'll move to the next slide. So this is an example. These are on the left-hand side. Really the story here would be, there you've got some shop floor workers. Product is coming off the line. They're able to go into ETQ, create inspection records. So let's say it's a fluid amount. Let's say it's Coca-Cola, and they're measuring how much fluid you get. I think is it 12 ounces in the can? That sounds right. You're measuring maybe 1 out of every 5 cans that comes off the line, making sure it's got the right fluid amount. If it does not, that would lead on your right-hand side, you'd be able to put in the amount in ETQ. The system would tell you whether it's pass or fail. And then that could lead to something like, if we go to the bottom right, that could lead to a non-conformance, where we determine what do we need to do with this lot that we just created that is does not have the right amount in it. That may lead to a corrective action to investigate why that happened, right? And if we move to the right, there really should be an arrow going directly to document control. Say in that corrective action investigation, we determined that a work instruction was out of date, so that the workers weren't following the right directions. We may want to roll out a new document that updates what they should be doing so that this problem doesn't happen again. And then we can roll out a training to ensure all our employees understand the revision that we just made. So these are all applications, again, that come with Reliance Go, and that's like a typical story where they can connect. Sort of a secondary story, if you look at the very top, we also have an audits application. And say you're going through a ISO type of audit. That's a lot of our clients joining our system are becoming certified. And to do that, they need, or at least to do it a little bit more efficiently, they may need our help. An audit may lead to something like a finding, which could lead to a quality event where you're going to investigate that finding, determine what needs to be fixed. And again, that could lead to an update to a document. That may lead to a full-on corrective action, which could lead to other pieces that we may not talk about today, like changing a product. But the idea, again, is we can connect these different applications, so you're not having to retype information. A failed audit finding will immediately launch a quality event. It'll intake everything that you've already done, and now you're moving in on fixing that problem long term. So now, probably the most exciting part of our webinar here, the live demonstration. Let me just close out my tab here. And Angela, can you confirm, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay, excellent. So just a little background, what we're looking at is the ETQ homepage, right? So this is the full system. It's called ETQ Reliance, if you ever hear that mentioned. This is what a typical user logging into the system would see. I won't get in too in depth on this, so we can always do a demo for you guys individually if you need to see one. But the idea is I can see my assignments. You've got dashboarding capabilities where I can see data that we're collecting. But what I really wanted to highlight here is I'm going to open up one of the applications. So here's our 45 applications I mentioned. I'm going to open up the corrective action application just to show you what it looks like, what we'd have pre-built for you. And the way these applications work is if I launch one, the very first thing I see is the reporting within that application. So I can see all of our open CAPAs. I can search by, where did they come from? What location are they at? I can search by priority. You can see a bunch of the other fields. We won't go through all these, but this allows you to slice and dice and find, groupings of CAPAs or individual ones as needed. what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a new corrective action. So now what we're seeing, this is again what you would have pre-built for you if you joined. This is exactly what the system would look like. We've got workflow going across the top. It really follows the, for those of you familiar with the really the 8D methodology. Then below, based off of, again, like what Angela talked about, best practices, what we've heard, what we've implemented before with 35 years of experience, we've really pre-built the most common use case for a corrective action. So that's things like collecting the CAPA type, where's it coming from, the implementation date that we need to roll out an action plan for, which can then auto-generate other due dates going backwards. Scrolling down a little bit further, what we've really optimized here with this rollout is the ability to select things like your team, which will automatically create assignments, right? So if I put in that my quality engineer, we can do assignments, it's going to be responsible for the root cause analysis. When we get to that third step, it'll automatically go to the quality engineer and it'll automatically give them a due date for when they need to do that investigation. And that works with other things. As far as the owner, that's going to be the person that signs off on the implementation, things of that nature. And scrolling down just a little bit further, you also have things like the problem identification. So you can begin, again, as I mentioned, reporting on these type of things. But this is where there may be a little configuration needs to be done, right? Your departments may not exactly match the ones we have in the system. We try to get the most common ones, but you may need to add a few in here. So that's where there's a little bit of self-service tool, things like departments, locations, that's going to be different for every company. Your problem categories may not match the exact ones we've pre-built, although again, we've got a lot of common ones in here. So this is where you may need to make changes for your selections. And that may be true of every application. All the other applications look very similar to this. Document control has got workflow going across the top. Nonconformance does as well. But once you add those locations, they will work within every application. Angela, anything you can think of that I missed on the demonstration there?
No, appreciate you kind of showing the folks what it kind of looks like hands-on, especially that that graphical kind of workflow across the top is something I think is really, we get a lot of positive feedback on that. Just being able to visualize a workflow as opposed to trying to link together manual spreadsheets. I hope it's kind of a positive thing to see that life can be better with linking quality processes together, and we've got a lot of that already built and ready to go.
Right. And with that workflow, it just promotes visibility as well.
Mm-hmm.
Enforces assignments. You can pull reports and see how many open corrective actions. We'll stick with that example, are under investigation or under implementation. And again, going back to that notification system, that's really driving off of that workflow. The workflow will tell the system when things are due, who owns that step, and then we can notify them automatically that they need to come in the system and complete whatever they need to complete.
Yep. Having that full traceability.
Yep. And while we're talking, I brought up the next slide. There's really the idea just behind this slide is you may needed a little extra help, a few hours of assistance here or there. So this does come with our Reliance Go offering. I'm not going to read out each line support, but you're not fully on your own. You don't have to file a ticket to ask a question necessarily. We can provide some online help where it's needed. It's really here to support your effort towards a successful deployment at a low fixed cost. And what I'll move on to is the next slide. So this is what Angela referenced as far as a typical sort of timeline and a typical phased approach, as we call it, to a implementation. So with Reliance Go, there's you saw the list of applications. It's probably not feasible for most companies to set up and launch every app within the same time frame. So it's sort of like we talked about Ignite earlier. You can pick the ones that are important to you and roll them out over time. So again, as I mentioned earlier as well, every company is different and in a different place when it comes to a quality processes. So this may vary a little bit, but our typical recommendation would be to start with 1 or 2 applications to roll out. Most commonly, that's document control and training, as I mentioned earlier as well. And those two typically go hand in hand as you're releasing documents. You'd like to train on them. So a lot of times we see our companies roll those out because they are quick wins and they can resolve some easily solvable pain points. And from there, you typically plot out which processes make the most sense to implement next. So again, if that may be, if you're looking at ISO certification, you may want to get that audits application rolling so that you can begin conducting internal audits before you have a third party come do it. If you're having problems with production, as I mentioned, my example with the corrective action, maybe you want to stand that up so you can begin having standardized investigations. But typically, most of our clients are using stakeholders within their company to input and inform them, and then begin rolling out a plan and sharing the schedule for when these applications will be rolled out. And that allows you to give your stakeholders a voice in what's most important and really sets you up for success when you're all the way at that launch phase of begin having your users adopting the system. Also, I mean, a lot of this is in our guides, but some apps may require more setup preparation than others. So things like inspections, you need to, you're needing to put your products in our system. You'll need to put in the criteria that you're inspecting. So that setup will be a little bit more than something like document control, which can be much more standardized. So when you're gathering that information, which is really the second step, you may need to bring in, again, other stakeholders, set up things like your users, your roles, your master keyword lists, templates if you're using document control. So that's a lot of that gathering the information step. With the setting up of Reliance, you'll typically, building things like profiles, setting up system preferences, setting up some of the dashboards now that you know what data you're collecting. That's typically where you may engage us as well. In that previous slide, we had mentioned that we've got some services to help with that. So typically after you've gathered your information, if you get stuck on 1 or 2 things during the setup, that's where you can bring us in. And then lastly, the best part, typically you actually launch the software. This is, again, it says leverage ETQ Academy resources at the bottom. You can do that throughout all these steps, quite frankly. But that's where, if you get feedback, you may want to leverage that ETQ Academy to make some changes if you need to. And really, the timeline does vary. It really varies how many applications you're rolling out, how much you're changing to them. We've seen it as fast as 1 or 2 weeks for an application, or it may take 4 or 5 more. Typically people are still doing their day job, so it does kind of depend how much time you can put towards this, how much experience you have. Maybe some people have set up other systems that may speed up the process. So there are several variables in there.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. That was a really nice overview of kind of setting a timeline expectation. It's a question we get frequently. It's like, how long is this going to take me? And as you mentioned, there's the tools are there waiting for you. A lot of it can be kind of timeline wrapped up in just the preparation component and preparing for a rollout as well.
Yeah, thank you, Angela.
Yep, excellent. All right, so before we open it up to Q&A, and just if you do have questions, go ahead and put those in the questions chat in the GoToWebinar interface, and happy to address those. So quick word on just some ETQ background for those of you who may be a little newer to us and our name. We were founded over 30 years ago by quality professionals and built the system for quality professionals. We work with hundreds of companies across a wide range of industries: automotive, food and beverage, life sciences, med device, consumer goods, all kinds of discrete manufacturing verticals. And that breadth really gives us a genuine understanding of these quality challenges businesses face. We've kind of seen it all at this point, and seeing that at different stages of growth. So we can help you build up or frame that ROI when it comes to getting buy-in for the investment. We can help, as Tim was mentioning, the project planning, supporting you throughout your quality program as you grow that over time. So you're not just getting the software, although that is a really great thing, but you're also getting a trusted partner with ETQ, and we've got a solid track record, of course. And so would definitely love to talk to you if you're ready to kind of modernize your quality situation and see if Reliance would be a good fit for you. So I think that's a wrap on the formal content. And just give folks some. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think we have any questions yet. There may always be follow-up questions after this.
Yeah, I think you just knocked it out of the park, Tim. I think that's.
Yeah, we just covered everything that that's needed. So again, if for those of you on this webinar, if you need to see a further demonstration of some of the other applications, or like us clicking through the corrective action and going through several of the steps there to show you how the root cause looks, we're more than happy to do so you can really get a good evaluation of where you'd start off with ETQ without having to do any sort of configuration. That of course would be part of your evaluation to see how out of the box we fit what you need to do. So glad to do that as a follow-up to this webinar if anyone's interested in learning more.
Yep, well said. I concur, and hope to hear from you. And thanks again so much for your time today, and we'll see you all next time.
Yeah, have a good rest of your week, everybody.